Hello, Dr. Cinema, and today is the big movie face-off that you probably knew was coming eventually. The first 2016 Deadpool movie versus the sequel Deadpool 2, which has now been out for about a month now. Deadpool is a very beloved Marvel comic character, appearing in 1991, starting out as a villain, turning into an anti-hero. His first on-screen appearance in a live-action movie was 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine. We do not talk about that. After fan backlash of that movie, Ryan Reynolds pushing for a faithful solo movie, and with the leaking of test footage for that movie, we finally got a solo Deadpool movie. We finally got a second one, and it's time for the ultimate Deadpool face-off. Yeah, I realize this is Deadpool and Spider-Man. This was the only Deadpool thing I had in close range, okay? 5 rounds. Let's do this. Round 1. Story. The first Deadpool movie is your standard superhero origin film with a Deadpool taste. Yes, I said taste. Deal with it. First Deadpool movie is about Wade Wilson, local mercenary, falling in love with an escort, Vanessa. Turns out Wade has cancer pretty much everywhere. A shady guy recruits him for a program saying that they can cure his cancer. Turns out they're making mutant super slaves. And while Wade's cancer is sort of cured, he's kind of disfigured. He managed to escape and tries to hunt down the people that were responsible for this program, mainly Ajax, aka Francis. Where's Francis? Ajax eventually kidnaps Vanessa, and Deadpool and Ajax have a showdown. Story of Deadpool 2 is very complicated. Vanessa dies at the beginning, and after Deadpool is depressed and tries to kill himself, he briefly journeys to the afterlife, where he's pretty much told more or less that he should join the X-Men, where he eventually gets thrown into prison, where he meets the kid Russell, a young mutant. Then Cable, a mutant from the future, comes back to try to kill Russell, because he does something that was pretty bad and horrible to Cable's family. So now Deadpool has tried to protect Russell from Cable, but then Deadpool and Cable have to team up with a couple of other people to help change Russell's future. It's a very complicated story. But it's a very Deadpool story, and as a Deadpool fan, I love watching that. But the first film is a lot more simple, and it's easier to bring in new fans of the Deadpool character. So with that being said, the first movie wins this round. Time for round 2. Supporting characters. There are a lot of them in the first one. Negasonic Teenage Warhead, young X-Men character, female, young teenager, sassy as hell. You got Colossus, Blind Al, Weasel, Doopender, and I guess you can throw in Vanessa there as supporting character as well. They're all really good and great in the first Deadpool film, and all of them show back up in the sequel. Though Negasonic gets a little bit less screen time, Colossus gets a little bit more, think Blind Al and Doopender get a little bit more. Weasel is good, but he mainly just is there just to serve a certain purpose or so in both films. He's like the lazy ally. And we got a few more supporting characters in the sequel. Domino, eventually Cable, and even a little bit of Russell thrown in there as well. I mean, they're all really great casts. And they all do the jobs fantastically. Although the sequel does get a little bit of advantage because it does bring in 2 very much beloved X-Men characters, Domino and Cable, which helps make it feel much more like a Deadpool film. So, with that said, the sequel wins this round. Time for round 3. Action. The movie of the first film was directed by Tim Miller? Anyway, there are a couple of good action scenes, and then a couple of mini action scenes, and killing montage, and a small mini fight in the burning building. But the 2 big fight action scenes in the first film are on the bridge and at the helicarrier that's not supposed to be a helicarrier, but it's very obviously a helicarrier. And if you don't know what a helicarrier is, it's a shield thing. So, studio rights issues is what I'm saying. And the action scenes of the first film are very entertaining to watch. The sequel, though, has a few more. You've got the big fight scene in the prison. You've got the big fight scene in the city on the mutant convoy. The fight scene at the orphanage. A killing montage. And a couple other small little action things as well, which are all really fun to watch. And they're directed by one of the guys who directed John Wick. So you know that's the shit. So, while the action in both films are both really good, the sequel does get an advantage, mainly because it's from a John Wick director, and plus there's a few more action scenes compared to the first one. So, round 3 goes to the sequel. Time for round 4, humor. For a character like Deadpool, humor is everything. He's the fourth wall breaking, merc with a mouth. And both films do that justice. Oh, they do that justice, alright. They do it all night long. I should probably stop that. Anyway, so the humor in both films are really good. And the humor in Deadpool 2 is funny. But if I have to be honest, I remember a lot more of the jokes from the first film. I mean, it's probably because to a lot of people it was such a big surprise that's how extreme and balls to the wall it was in terms of action and humor. So when Deadpool 2 came around, we knew what to expect, which doesn't mean the humor is bad. It's still great to watch and listen to, but again, it's far more memorable in the first film. So that round goes to the first film. 2-2 tie, time for round 5. Heart. Now before we go any further, I should probably explain, because I might be misleading you a tiny bit. When I'm talking about heart, I'm not talking about the passion, work, effort, and time that went into making the film behind the scenes. If we did that, the first film would win in a landslide. We'll be looking at the heart, the story arc, and emotional depth that show on screen. Nothing behind the screen, on screen, but shown in the final version. So, let's talk about it. The main heart of the first film lies in the relationship with Wade Wilson and Vanessa. They're not your typical superhero couple, but they're so into each other and just really warms anyone's heart that these two are so in love with each other. It's true. It's a little weird to say because she's an escort and that was a little unexpected, but it's very expected in the same way if you're a Deadpool fan. So, and even though it does get a little bit cliche when Deadpool has to rescue his girlfriend / fiance, it does fit in the overall story of the film because you want them to be together. You want them to end up together happily ever after. The emotional on-screen story of the second film, well, let's talk about it. Vanessa dies at the beginning of the movie, and of course Deadpool gets so depressed, he tries to find ways to kill himself, which leads to several brief trips into the afterlife. Yeah, the X-Men universe has an afterlife. I mean, we knew there was an afterlife in the comics, but to actually see it in the films, it is a little bit weird, but very welcomed. And if you've seen my video talking about Vanessa's death in greater detail, Dr. Cinema diagnoses Vanessa's death in Deadpool 2, or something along those lines, you know what I'm talking about when they say that her role is actually more important than most mainstream audiences will realize. But it's all about family in the second film, where Deadpool is heartbroken and emotionally lost, but he does actually end up finding his own little family with Cable, the time-traveling mutant, Domino, a new recruit for what will become the official X-Force team. You also have Doopender, Blind Al, and you got the little kid Russell, who, yeah, Deadpool and Vanessa were planning to have a kid at the beginning of the film before Vanessa was killed off. But now Russell sort of becomes like a little bit of a surrogate child, in a way, for Deadpool. And Deadpool does actually go through a real emotional story arc a lot more than he does in the first film. I mean, I know that might not seem apparent to a lot of mainstream audiences, especially for those who don't actually read the comics. But for a huge Deadpool comic like myself, I notice all the references, all the ties, and just what how important this actually is for the character. So, with that being said, Deadpool 2 wins this round, and the face-off. Deadpool 2 beats the original Deadpool film. I know I'm probably going to be in the minority here, but either way, Deadpool wins. And let's be honest, the one thing we can all agree on is that the music for both of those films are excellent. Just don't let Kanye touch the soundtrack for the next one. Anyway, that's what I have for this movie face-off. Comment down below which movie you think is better and why. Like this video, subscribe and share. And Dr. Cinema, one huge Deadpool fan, will be seeing you next time for a video that's most likely not going to be Deadpool related, just in case that was confusing.